to Survive and Advance on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Survive and Advance is brought to you by MyBookie.ag, and to get up to a first deposit cash bonus of 100% up to your first $300, make sure you go to MyBookie.ag, put in the promo code TGT100, or just go to thegruelingtruth.com, click on the MyBookie banner, top of the page. I am your co-host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome him, my co-host, 1981 national champion, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good today, Mike. It's Friday. You get a 2-day break from me for the weekend here. How many large is MyBookie AG into you now? I figure between you and Bobby, you got to be cleaning that place out.
I have no clue. I think it's up to like $787 million.
Oh wow! Can I borrow $50?
No, because we're betting it all tonight. All right, so let's talk a little NFL. We haven't talked any NFL in a while, and this time of year,
no,
if you're
we haven't.
talking NFL, it's usually nothing good. And
Not this
Patrick
time of year.
Peterson has been suspended 6 games for violating the league's performance-enhancing substance policy. The 8-time Pro Bowler stood on the red carpet at his foundation's annual fundraiser, and he said he was sorry. And, he said he was sorry, Steve. Why are we going to suspend him? He said he was sorry. But this is a killer for the Cardinals because he's one of the best players, defensive players in the NFL. This is a killer, especially for Cliff Kingsbury. Doesn't matter if I say his name right or not because he's not going to be there very long anyways. But I don't know if it really changes the Cardinals' chances for this year because I don't think those chances were there anyways. But this definitely hurts him. Now the question is, will the Kansas City Chiefs make a play to trade for him?
Ouch! Or the Cowboys, one of the two.
Yeah, he could be a Chief or a
He's got it right in the middle. Yeah,
he may not have done enough bad stuff to be.
Both, yeah.
He probably hadn't done enough bad stuff to be a Chief, so he'll just be a Cowboy.
Mike, the bigger question here is, and again, from what I read, the disappointing part was the Cardinals were counting heavily on their defense to kind of stabilize them until they got their offense clicking with their new quarterback and their new coach. And they were counting on their defense to kind of bring some stabilization to the program. And now you lose, stalwart on your defensive front. What is the bigger problem here? Is it just the competitiveness being driven by the money or by the owners? These guys have got to get to the realization now that they're going to get caught. The chances of not getting caught are so significant.
Oh, come
minuscule
on, Steve.
now.
Nobody gets caught. This is like 3 guys who have been busted for steroids. The amount of guys in the NFL on some kind of PED is probably 80 or 90%.
So I guess the question to you is the 6-game suspension without? I assume it's without pay.
Yeah.
Is that worth going ahead and taking it and building your body up and using the PEDs? Because when you come back from that 6-game suspension, you still live with the benefits of the PEDs, and you're a better football player. You're more physically gifted. You're faster, stronger. You're more of a Steve Austin type of guy. Is that the case? Because, it just seems to me at some point guys would say, this is not worth it to lose 6 games of a season, let my team down, and lose 6 games of salary money. None of these guys make, Russell Wilson type money.
Well, Patrick Peterson makes a lot of money.
Not Russell Wilson type money.
Maybe the reason Patrick Peterson makes so much money is because of this, though.
Yeah, I just got to believe that there's a bigger force drawing these guys to go ahead and risk doing this time and time again than just wanting to be the best.
Yeah, because of what it does to your body. It makes you bigger, stronger, and faster, and you're playing in a collision sport. And the bad thing is it's kind of a double-edged sword because the guys that don't use it are at a huge disadvantage. The guys that do use it are a huge advantage. So they're basically putting the guys that don't use it in jeopardy. If you don't use it, you're kind of in jeopardy. But the thing is about the NFL's substance abuse policy is this. Until you're caught, you always know when you're going to be tested. So actually, you have to be a complete moron to get caught. And that's why you see a handful of morons every year get caught. And that's why you see the guys that get caught, like Patrick Peterson or Josh Gordon, which wasn't performance enhancing because that was just weed. But once you've been caught, then they have a right to test you whenever they want. And then that's why you have so many repeat offenders. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, the NFL doesn't necessarily want to stop it. They're just putting on a show. Because if they really wanted to stop it, they would just randomly test everybody whenever they wanted. And they're not going to do that because then everybody's going to get caught. Or everybody's going to get off of it and the game's not as good.
Not randomly testing CBA. It's collective bargaining agreement. I'm sure they had that worded in there so you couldn't randomly test unless you were caught once.
Yeah,
and
but
then you
let's
could
face
randomly
it,
test.
the NFL gets what they want when they do the CBA. I mean, every time the players go on strike, it backfires and the players come crawling back because the owners are worth billions of dollars and the players are not. So the players can't afford to lose those paychecks. The owners can take a hit here, especially when you get TV money that's guaranteed.
Yeah. So what you're really saying is most likely the owners kind of underhandedly kind of don't mind them taking the PEDs, just they have to put on a storefront to the lay public that they are trying to do something with
baseball.
it. But really, they want their players faster, stronger, bigger.
Yeah. Major League Baseball in the 90s got saved by steroids, no matter what anybody says. And everybody says, well, you shouldn't let Bonds and them in the Hall of Fame because they were using steroids, but everybody was using them back then. You had second basemen that had never hit more than 10 home runs show up and hit 50 the next year. But nobody said anything about it then until you had federal investigations and everything else because technically it wasn't illegal, but really it was illegal because it was still a federally banned substance. So Major League Baseball used that as the cop-out, and then they put it in the rules. But in the end, these owners don't care. They just want players to go out there and perform so they can get paid. Patrick Peterson got caught, and I guarantee you this, Steve, there's not only 3 guys that are taking steroids this offseason.
Well, I'm sure. I'm sure there are probably 3 guys that aren't taking steroids. I'd be surprised if there are 3 guys that aren't doing it in some form. I don't know, but I guess the downside of it is that recently there was a 39-year-old female wrestler who just died. They haven't released their cause of death yet, but when you look at her when she came into the league, and you look at her when she left the league, I mean, her body had morphed so incredibly. It's virtually impossible, I think, for a female to make that kind of body changes without using performance-enhancing drugs. I saw again where Ric Flair is in a medical emergency, critical condition, widely known as, somebody who in wrestling's been widely known for PEDs for a long period of time. And probably you see more people out of that sport. And there's a lower hardcore number, but a higher percentage of people that pass away in that sport. And a lot of it heart-related issues, which in PEDs are hard on the heart, aren't they?
No.
Hard on the metabolic system.
No. They're hard on the liver.
No.
If you take something to detoxify your liver while you're taking steroids, the steroids are safe.
Okay.
Now, this is the thing.
Shows what I know about it.
A lot of people don't. So if you're not doing everything you're supposed to do, because a lot of these people are just taking the steroids without any medical guidance. That's why you see guys like Victor Conte. You've heard of Victor Conte, the Balco scandal, which, Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire. Those guys aren't having any issues because they had a doctor right there telling them exactly what to do, how to take it, how to beat the test. You've watched Icarus, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched Icarus, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got a doctor that is telling you how to take them and how to do it safely, you can. But if you don't, the other thing is this. I mean, you don't know how many of them are sharing needles because steroids becomes a lot more dangerous when you're sharing a needle. I mean, not just getting hepatitis B or AIDS, but it's a lot more dangerous. So if you take steroids, they're not safe. But let's face it, what is safe that you can take that is medically given to you? I mean, we look at everything, and there's side effects to everything. But there's different kinds of steroids that do different kind of things. Jarrell Miller got busted for something that is so poisonous, it's actually on a poison control list. So there's no safe way to take that. So it's according to what you're taking to counteract the side effects of it, and what you're doing there. But I mean, when you look at it and you look at the amount of players in all sports to do this stuff, they'd be dropping dead left and right if it was completely unsafe. It's like anything else. If you don't follow the way you're supposed to do it, it's unsafe. If you do what you're supposed to do with it, in a lot of cases it's safe. Not every case, because some of the stuff's just not safe to begin with. But when you're looking at, I can do this and provide for my family forever, it's hard to turn that down.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess. I don't know. I mean, nobody ever offered me steroids. I never took them. I don't think they were in vogue when I was playing.
Yeah, they were. Maybe not in basketball. But in the NFL it was. The NFL has been in vogue since the 60s, 70s. I mean, hell, there's been steroids on the market for 100 years.
I think even when I played, the only time I remember drug testing was in tournaments, was in the NCAA tournament. And that was probably only the last couple of years of it.
Yeah, but see, the reason you have so much drug testing now is what the Soviets and the Eastern European countries were doing back in the 60s and 70s in the Olympics.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Where it brought it to the forefront. But if you look at it, and the thing is this, guys that took it in the 70s did the majority die at an early age because nobody knew anything about how it affected the liver and how you have to detoxify the liver. And if you don't detox it, you got issues. And I mean, when you're looking at steroids and you take Dianabol, you can take it for 3 or 4 months. And if you lift weights and you eat right with it, you're putting on 20 pounds of muscle. And when you look at these athletes, most of these guys are not genetic freaks. It doesn't just kind of evolve. I mean, a perfect example is I had a guy on Facebook arguing with me about Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson and how Holyfield was headbutting him, and that's why Mike Tyson bit him, and Evander Holyfield was a steroid freak. Now, if you look at pictures of Mike Tyson when he was 13, 14 years old, that's not genetics. No, he wasn't. He had muscles growing on muscles. That doesn't happen to a 13 or a 14-year-old naturally. He went under the care of Cus D'Amato, and Cus D'Amato was feeding him steroids like it was candy. I mean, nobody will say anything because it was Mike Tyson, just like everybody ignores the Evander Holyfield, and we've had this debate before. If you are one of the chosen people, people will leave you alone about it. I mean, with Patrick Peterson, this won't follow him because this is a 6-game suspension, which means he's been busted before. And when they talk about guys that use steroids, you never hear Patrick Peterson.
Yeah.
Because everybody likes him.
But what about a guy like, I think you're old enough to remember, George McGinnis was a guy who swears to God he never lifted a weight in his life.
Well, there are guys like that. Herschel Walker swears that he never lifted a weight in his life. And, I mean, I think there are guys like that, but there's not that many. They're few and far between. And when you see these guys, I mean, a lot of these guys are freaks anymore playing these sports. I mean, if you're 6'5" and you weigh 310 pounds and you're running a 4.8 40.
Yeah, something's not natural.
Yeah, it's not. And I mean,
I think if you watch the evolution of Tiger Woods, too, I think you can definitely draw your own conclusions there. But I think it'd be hard for us to say that there wasn't.
And I mean, the thing is
a possibility of, he could have done it by natural weightlifting.
And this is the thing, though. This is the thing. He got huge from the time where he wasn't successful for a year or two, or as successful.
Mm-hmm.
That's when all of a sudden he gets bigger. He had a couple of injury issues. He gets bigger. But then the injury issues catch up to him because, I mean, if you don't cycle off of it right, injuries are a big part of it. I mean, Mark McGwire doesn't catch near the hell Barry Bonds does because Barry Bonds was an asshole and Mark McGwire was beloved by everybody.
Yeah.
But
what is I got a question for you, a couple questions for you. Is vodka a detoxification for the liver?
Is what?
Vodka?
No, it's not.
Damn.
It'll destroy your liver, though. So
that's why
that way the steroids can't. Hey, and the other question: if you're 22 years old and you're 22-year-old Steve Risley, you can't tell me for 1 second if somebody had walked up to you and say, hey, you take this for the next 3 months and you're going to be drafted in the first round by the NBA, you're going to be an NBA Hall of Famer, win 4 rings, and go down as one of the greatest power forwards of all time, you'd have taken it no matter what you say.
Well, I did, but unfortunately, the severe case of white man's disease that I had overcame any steroids that I wanted to consume.
So you took steroids, or are you admitting that right now, Steve?
Sure, why not?
No, you just said that you were offered that. But
no,
see,
I never took steroids. If Knight took steroids, Knight would have had my ass.
Knight wouldn't have cared. I guarantee you, as long as you don't tell him about it, he'd have been fine.
I don't think that's the John Wooden rule with Bob Knight. I don't think that applies.
That has nothing to do with the John Wooden rule. That's not cheating. Yeah. Remember? It wasn't illegal by the NCAA back then.
Yeah, you're right. Pot. Not only because I don't smoke pot,
Really? I thought you did the way you act, but go ahead.
No, thank you very much. I'm naturally goofy. What are they doing?
No, I just heard it kills brain cells. That's why I kind of put 2 and 2 together.
You got to have brain cells to kill them.
Okay.
You have to have brain cells to kill them. Does the NFL and pro sports in general just have their own policies on it, overriding any state policies? Because
yes.
Pot's legal in California.
Yeah, but you know what?
How can they stop?
Even if it's legal in California, if you work, say there's a casino in California.
Well, if you work for the state, you can't. Yeah, anything state funded, you can't. Yeah.
This is the thing. If I own if I own my own private business, I can make whatever rules I want to make.
Right.
I can make it illegal to smoke pot. I can make it illegal to eat Snickers bars. Doesn't matter. It's my job. So even if this is federally legalized, I'm sure the leagues would probably then let it go. But if it's just state by state, like if you're a Denver Bronco right now, you can still get busted for smoking weed.
Yeah, because it's the NFL's policy on drug abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
But the NFL has no policy on alcohol, which is 10 times worse.
Yeah. I use CBD. I use CBD for my back and my.
Yeah, but CBD is not a drug. CBD is a natural medicine.
Yeah. So, and I'll tell you what, for everybody out there listening, don't be afraid of that stuff. It works wonders. I'm going to tell you what. I cannot believe that the pharma industry has not jumped on board with this stuff yet
No.
My son brought some home to me and finally convinced me to try it.
Pharma can't jump on this, Steve. They don't want things that heal things. They want you to stay sick.
Perpetually be sick, right?
Exactly. Yeah, CBD
cure
helps
cancer. And I spent 25
cancer.
Years in part,
Yeah, all this shit.
Well, I don't know about curing. All I know is I ran out of it the other day, and my son gets a bottle of it for me from his pot shop that he goes to.
Oh shit! You ain't getting straight CBD. He's
No. There's no THC in it. There's no THC or whatever, hemp or whatever. It's supposed to be the good kind.
THC in it, but what it is they can say
there's no
none.
THC on the bottle.
Well, I guarantee you this: most of them you're at like 0.03%.
Okay.
So
anyway,
it's just a trace.
I know that when I started taking it, there was a significant amount of pain tolerance that diminished immediately. And when I ran out of the bottle for about a week and a half, it did not have any. The pain came right back. And I'll tell you what, that's something for anybody that's with chronic pain to explore what's out there and read up on it. Because I was a non-believer until he just finally forced me to try some, and I tried it. And holy boy, now you can travel. Well, no, somebody just got busted for traveling with that. Somebody just went through an airport and they found
it is legal
CBD
in all 50 states, but it is not federally permissible. But states' rights by, what was it, the 4th Amendment of the Constitution, gives you the right, or it gives states' rights, or is it 10th Amendment? I don't remember.
To supersede the federal government.
Yeah, but the problem is the federal government could always supersede that by changing that, but I don't think they will because they're eventually going to make a lot of money off the legalization of weed.
Right. Isn't that the great debates going on in Alabama right now with the abortion rights? The states are invoking their own laws to
it's just
try and
more
rid
than
the world
that
of Roe
state.
v. Wade.
Yeah, it's more than
now
just that
now
state.
Missouri's jumping in. I saw today where Missouri's jumping in now.
Well, I think Ohio may have passed it also. It's where
there's several states who have introduced legislation on that, and that's a scary thing. But that's another debate for another show somewhere else down the road.
Why is it scary that states introduce that?
I don't want to get into that conversation. That's political, and I refuse to get into political discussion.
It's not a political discussion because you made the comment, why is it scary?
Yeah. You're not sucking me in that conversation.
No, I just asked why you. I don't know what you're going to say, so I don't know if I'm sucking you in.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to move on to.
Yesterday, I sucked you into an instant replay discussion. I can honestly tell you right now, I'm just trying. Yeah, I lost. That's why everybody's texting.
Instant replay failed you. It failed you in that game.
There was no instant replay in that game, Steve.
There was a blatant foul.
Yeah. Foul.
And they went and looked at it. Well,
dude, they didn't look at it. They can't look at it because there's no instant replay.
Well, what were they doing spending 5 minutes on the monitors for?
That's where they figured out that they couldn't replay it. And the NHL has already come out and said, wait a second, Steve.
Much the same
the NHL
much the same as the pass interference against the Saints. That should have been reviewed. That play should have been reviewed. That's a life-altering play that didn't get reviewed by instant replay.
You said it shouldn't be reviewed.
It should have been. It was. I mean, I don't know.
You are against instant replay. See, this is where you lose because you sound like a moron when you constantly say you don't believe in instant replay.
I don't, but if you're going to have it, use it.
Okay.
I get the fact that I'm a minority on the thought process of instant replay.
It's not a minority.
But I'm just telling
like you and two other retards who are 95 years old that live.
But then now you have it, and you all win your case to get it.
No, we didn't because there was no replay. There was no replay.
That should be a reviewable call.
But it wasn't. And I can tell you this. The problem with that is this. You had two officials right in front of it. Neither one of them called it. And now those guys, all four of those officials have been removed from the rest of the playoffs by the NHL. The NHL admitted it was wrong. So when you look at that,
overturn the decision, make it right.
They should. I think they should have to pick the game up at the same point of overtime they were at and play the game out.
Yeah.
But you can't say that because you think that that's all right to have people screw stuff up. But now I want to know why you think it's scary that the state could overturn Roe v. Wade in that state.
I'm not getting sucked into that discussion. I'm going to move on to the Big Ten Conference.
No, you're not going to move on. You're going to answer the question because you made the comment.
I'm not going to answer the question.
You're going to answer it because you made the comment. Let's just bring it out.
$759 million.
I'm not going to listen to this. I'll mute you.
Now.
You think I will?
Well, then mute me if that's what you want to do. It's a 48% increase.
You made
over revenue
a comment,
generated by the
and
Big
you don't
Ten.
have the balls to stand up.
No, I
stand
don't.
By it.
No, I don't. I don't.
I just wanted to know what your opinion was of why it was scary that the Constitution may be upheld and states' rights would supersede the federal government.
Mike, let's move on to
I don't want
Big
to.
Ten
I like this conversation better, so answer the question.
Talk to yourself.
No, I want to talk to somebody who thinks that states' rights are not a good thing.
$759 million in revenue generated.
So you're not going to answer the question?
No, I'm not going to answer the question.
Why?
Because it's not a conversation to have in this venue.
Why not?
Because it's not. We're a sports show.
Yeah.
Not a political show on sports on patient or human rights advocacy.
All right.
So we're not going to do it.
We have a comment from hold on, I got to get my glasses on. Hopefully my kids won't see. Let's see. At Bruce Cantrell, who says, Steve is being a pussy right now. I'm not kidding either.
Fine.
You can go.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never harm me. So I'm not going to get involved in this conversation.
Why?
It's not an appropriate
It's not
place
a conversation. I just wanted you to explain why you said it was scary.
$759 million by the Big Ten. Is that out of line?
I'm waiting for you to explain why it's scary.
A 48% increase over the $520 million $512 million they made in revenue last year. Again, we're in a situation where between these conferences, these super conferences, and the NCAA in general, so much money is now being generated. And again, is an appropriate share going back to the student athletes. If you take a look at this, there are a few teams in the Big Ten that are actually not even getting a cut of it. They're being given low interest rate loans. I think Maryland and Rutgers are some of the latest joining East Coast teams are coming in, and they're basically, the Big Ten is creating loans for them, setting them up, but not even really including them in the bulk of the revenue generating process yet. So, Mike, is this just too much money that these conferences are now making?
No. Why is it scary?
No, you're fine with it?
I just want to know why it's scary.
Scary that kind of money's being floated around, and it's not being generated.
I want to know why it's scary that states have rights.
Mike, I'm not going there.
You brought it up. I didn't. I just
I
wanted to know
did.
what you thought. I just wanted to know your feelings.
Shutting it down.
We may agree on it.
No, we'll do another show on it. But
we're
not
on
today.
Show.
We have too much to get through today.
No, we don't. This is the last thing we're going to talk about is the NCAA. What else did we have to talk about? We're only 26 minutes in.
I'm not going there. Come on. Let's move on.
Oh, jeez. Sure, Steve. We'll move on. What are we going to talk about? The Big Ten made a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. An exorbitant amount of money. $759 million in revenue, gross revenues. Yep. Off of TV money, and how much of that is dropping down all the way down to, let's call it the motor, the players that are driving the ship, basically, the exploitation of the players. The players are really the only people that generally pay the penalty for when things go awry. University presidents don't, ADs don't, coaches don't. They're not suspended. They're not kicked out of their program. Rick Pitino is free to go coach at any other college he wants to, although it appears that for some reason they're giving the benefit of the doubt to Pitino that he's exonerated from even really knowing what was going on at Louisville, which I think is a crock. It's just another notch now, and I think this article goes on to say that the Big Ten now is almost 35% higher than the SEC, which is second. In making about about $550 million in general revenues. So these are cash cows. The sport, college basketball, which is supposed to be a sport about student athletes, amateurism, continues to be a cash cow for everybody except the student athletes. And at some point in time, the dam's going to break, and there's going to be a revolt. If it turns out to be a unionization of the players, if they can get that organized, although I think the NCAA,
Northwestern.
I know. That's where the point I was getting to. Right, they're going to have to come back, and they're going to have to find a group of lawyers strong enough to get them to stay united enough to where they can have a big enough clout in the game to say, we no longer are just student athletes.
They're never going to let that happen, Steve. This is slavery.
Yeah, well,
it's modern slavery. I mean, Dabo Swinney, all right, is the biggest hypocrite in the world. He just signed, I think in April, a 10-year, $93 million contract. And, he's got this great story. Virtually, he was homeless when he was a child in Alabama. And he becomes a walk-on receiver, became a meaningful player for a national champion, and spent 49 years writing this great story. But now, when Swinney sits atop the proverbial mountaintop of his profession as the highest-paid coach in college football, it's difficult to feel good about him anymore when you have him being one of the loudest voices of college athletics establishment that views sharing the wealth. And Dabo Swinney, I used to think was an excellent human being, but I don't think that anymore. I just don't, because of what he said. I mean, what he said was this. He said, "We try to teach our guys, use football to create the opportunities, take advantage of the platform and the brand, and the marketing you have available to you. But as far as paying players, professionalizing college athletics, that's where you lose me. I'll go do something else because there's enough entitlement in the world as it is. Swinney has never disavowed that comment, and my problem here is the word entitlement. And I don't see how college players would be getting an entitlement because, I'm sorry, but this became professional sports a long time ago. College athletics at big-time football and basketball programs like Clemson aren't dumb. They see the commercialization, the bloated ticket prices, the ever-growing coaching contracts like Dabo Swinney's, and they understand that their role in creating that enterprise is greater than the value of a scholarship. Entitlement? Give me a break. The only entitlement is a coach going to his athletic director every freaking year and expecting a raise even though there's no chance they're going to leave. Entitlement is a contract that would allow him to go to his alma mater, Alabama, for a relatively paltry $6 million. Entitlement is the ability to make a minimum of $93 million plus obtainable bonuses off the labor of teenage kids, many of whom come from the same poor background that Dabo Swinney did. Dabo Swinney should know better than this. And he stands publicly against the idea that they should get a piece of that pie. You know, of course, Swinney can get away with this crap because he's got a great product to sell. You know, and this is the thing. He can also threaten to go to the Raiders for $1 billion a year after Gruden gets fired. And I just think that it is really sad that Dabo Swinney's an asshole because I thought he was one of the good guys. But if you could sit there and talk about entitlement while you sign a 9-year, $93 million contract, that's sickening. And the Big Ten, I don't have a problem with the Big Ten making as much money as they can. You know, it's a free market system. That's fine. But to ignore the players that got you that contract is sickening.
Right.
The Big Ten's revenue
That's my point.
in 2017 was $512 million.
$12 million, right.
And it's $750 million now. The SEC makes $660 million in revenue. The Big 12 makes $374 for a 10-team league because really it's more than that because Texas has its own side suite deal, you know, similar to Notre Dame with their own network and everything. And this is the thing. 11 or 12 Big Ten schools will get a full share north of $50 million.
Yeah.
Now
that's just direct from TV money. And
yeah,
that's not including all the other sorts of revenue they have coming into.
This problem is twofold to me. Number one, they have all this money. They're not going to use it for their players. And when I look at that, they'll use it to get better facilities to bring in better players. They have enough money to recruit everybody as much as they want. We talk about the Central Floridas of the world or Western Michigan a couple years ago. They don't get a chance to make it to the national championship game, and their programs don't get $50 million a year. Nowhere near that. So when I look at this is just what these contracts do is they just make it less and less possible that a mid-major team like a Central Florida can continue to compete with them. You know, this basically monopolizes college football into the 5 or 6 super conferences. And that's just the way it is. They won't let, no matter what these teams do, they won't let a Central Florida in their playoff. Because they'd have to give them a cut of this money. That's the whole reason why they won't do it. And this is the thing. It's not capitalism, Lucas. It's not. It's a monopoly. Monopolies are supposed to be illegal in this country. Of course, we've seen with phone companies,
cable system.
Yeah, Xfinity. It's really not. But capitalism is this. we're all supposed to have an equal shot to be able to do what we can do to the best of our abilities. Capitalism is not using somebody for free labor to make that money. And capitalism has morphed into that over the last 50 years in this country. Exactly, Lucas. But when you look at it, this is not a capitalist society anymore. This is a rich and a poor. And college football, college basketball, college sports in general has turned into the same thing. You've got rich and you've got poor. There's no in between. There's no middle class. There's no chance for poor to be rich. There's no chance that Indiana State is all of a sudden going to be able to compete consistently in college basketball with any team in one of the power conferences. Now, you may get a year where Larry Bird shows up, or Michael Menser, who showed up in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they may be able to compete with anybody for a year or two, but that's going to go away. And I can tell you this, at Central Florida, they've built a great program, but I don't expect, Steve, 3 years from now, that Central Florida is still going to be competing to play on New Year's Day. I mean, and the thing is this, they throw the crumbs by giving all these bowl games to these little colleges. They pay them off $250,000, $1 million, or $2 million, whatever. That's to keep them to shut up, to keep them quiet, and to let everything go the way Daddy wants it to. And that's what this is. And this is, I mean, we heard Patrick Ewing at one point say the NBA was like slavery. Well, it's not. If you're making $10 million a year, you're not a slave. What is slavery is when your master coach is making $10 million a year, and you're sweating your ass off, putting your brain on the line every day for him, and you get nothing.
Well, now, okay, I got three parts to this. First off, I believe UCF is going to have to join a power conference for them to be recognized as an elite program.
You can only join a power conference if that power conference will allow you to.
Right. And yeah. So there's various parts involved in that, but I think as long as UCF remains where they are conference-wise, they will always get the disrespect that they're getting right now, which is a shame. Because I believe UCF is the largest college enrolled campus in the United States, and is it not?
I know it's pretty damn big.
I think they're the biggest. I think they're first, and I think Ohio State may be second, both well over 50,000 students on the main campus. I don't quote me on that. Somebody's going to text in and say differently, but I think UCF is one of the largest, if not the largest, single-entity campus in the United States. Secondly, when you brought up the point about Dabo Swinney talking about use this opportunity to market yourselves and things like that when you're in college, well, I'm going to tell you right now, that's fine for Zion Williamson, because Zion Williamson is going to go to the Pelicans and sign a buku contract. He's going to get shoe endorsements, whether he's in New York, New Orleans, or L.A. He's going to be a media darling for a long enough period of time that he and his family are never going to have to work again. Now, let's take a guy like me. When am I most marketable? Well, I was most marketable when I was dressing in a uniform at Indiana University. That's when Steve Risley was the most marketable. I was part of the team. I was enjoying the success of the team, contributing to the success of the team. When I graduated, yeah, you're kind of Colin's going to figure this out real quick. Colin's going to realize he came out of college, and everybody told stories of how Colin was the savior of Indiana. He's the heart and soul of what an Indiana basketball player is. You know, we all of the Abernathys, Risleys, and Brian Evanses of the world heard those stories. And then slowly that starts to creep away. And you start going from sitting behind the bench to sitting next to the band. As you get bumped down and the newest darling, and your marketability drops. I mean, I can't go back to Indiana right now and be nearly as marketable as I was when I was playing there. So why shouldn't I capitalize on the marketability of me and say, I want to draw income and I want to draw off my marketability when it's at its peak? Because my peak marketability was May or March of 1981. That's when I got invited to speak everywhere. I got invited to attend events. I had job offers thrown at me left and right. And then, that slowly, year after year, starts to erode to where, like I said, I go back to Indiana and walk into somebody's office and say, hey, you want to sponsor the Survive in Advance? They're like, who are you? Oh, yeah, I remember. Yeah, you're one of those guys that played with Isaiah.
You're Chuck Francis' friend.
Yeah, you're Chuck Francis' friend. Yeah, exactly. And no
hey,
slam on
by the
Chuck
way,
Francis.
I've gotten multiple direct messages on Twitter, and all of them say that you were right about the University of Central Florida. But we have one guy by the name of Adam Johnson who said that Risley is completely wrong. Texas A&M is number 2, Ohio State's number 3.
That might be, yeah. That might be, yeah.
I just thought it was funny because the only thing that matters is you nailed number 1, and you came in at number 2 with number 3. So I thought that was a good job.
Yeah, no.
And Central Florida has 66,000 students in it.
Yeah, Ohio State's over 50, and I did not know Texas A&M was bigger than that.
There's 60,000. Texas A&M is like 65,000.
Yeah, so I was close. But the whole thing about Dabo's, the problem with Dabo's comments are, and what the NCAA tries to tell you is, take this opportunity to learn to market yourself. You're the most marketable when you're playing on these teams.
Yeah.
For 95% of the players playing.
Yeah, they're never going to see anything. They're never going to see anything out of it at all because when they leave the program, you know, and there's a large part of them, Mike, that aren't ever even going to get their degrees. Yeah, because colleges don't care if they get. I'll give you a good example. They don't care. I can give you a personal example from Friday night. My son is going to go to a college that is overseen by the NCAA. They left Thursday night to go down, or Friday, to go down to a media day for that school that the school invited him to. The school then gets a message, and my son's like over halfway there. And the message is from the coach, the NCAA just said that we are not allowed to provide them with a place to stay.
And see, that's the idiocracy of it all.
Yeah, they can't find a place to stay, but the Big Ten can have $800 million.
And how many alumni do you think there or donors are going to be at this event? Meeting and greeting your son
this
and
is
other,
the thing.
other
What's
recruits
going to
coming
be
in.
There is
and they're going to use these kids to wine and dine
media.
These alumni with their checkbooks and get them to give more money to the university. Hey, here's our new class recruit. You know, we need a new weight room for these guys. Donate the money here. This is the crop we got coming in, but we can't put you up in a hotel room. We can't even do that. It's absurd. It's absolutely. I mean, here's what I think. I think people are so naive to what the NCAA does. They mask it so well.
I think people
by putting
don't care what the NCAA does.
That's sad if they don't but I think you're right. They don't care.
No.
All they care about is March Madness.
They just want to watch the game.
They want to watch the games. They don't care what they don't care what these kids go through. And let's face it, for every Bob Knight who did care about his players and, if a player got injured or couldn't, he carried Glenn Grunwald for 5 years. Not because Glenn didn't deserve to be carried, just he was physically really unable to play. His knees were so destroyed.
Yeah, and Coach Knight wasn't the only coach that would have done that. But
no, he was
not.
The
problem is
but he's a minority. It's in the minority
of
coaches that would
do
that.
Minority.
Yeah, the minority, right? And most coaches would just jettison Grunwald aside. And what was the kid Hoiberg at Iowa State? Comes in. You heard that story, didn't you? He comes in. He took over the coach, I think, at Iowa State. Calls the kid in an hour before his final at the end of the semester and says, well, the program's not going to be utilizing you anymore. You need to transfer. Yeah. Calls the kid in an hour before he's taking one of his finals for the semester.
Because Fred Hoiberg doesn't give a damn.
Doesn't give a damn about this kid's education. Okay, now the kid's leaving to go take a final. He's like, oh, my God, my life, basketball's been my life.
What am I going to do now?
And what am I going to do now? I have to go think about recruiting, going to a different college. An hour before the kid's going to take his final, the head coach, at getting paid probably some $3, $4, $5 million a year, calls the kid in and tells him you no longer are welcome on this basketball team or at this university. Archie Miller did the same thing. Archie Miller called in 3 or 4 players and said, we're not going to utilize you. You need to go find somewhere else to play. You're not playing here.
Yeah, but if the kid chooses to do that, they make the kid look bad.
Make the kid sit out a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has to sit out a year, and it's people need to understand what goes on, how much money is being generated by college athletics, gross revenues. I mean, Delaney makes over $5.5 million to run the Big Ten. He probably has a staff of 2,000 working for him.
They're all making good money too.
They're all making good money too. I mean, I can't even shudder to think what the top execs at the NCAA make. Oh. Not to mention how much they held Indianapolis hostage to get the buildings built there with tax cuts and tax breaks and things of that nature. I mean, that was a big competitive thing too. They took it away from Kansas City. So I don't know. It's just another thing. For Dabo Swinney to come out and say the college kids should take this opportunity to learn to market themselves, you're never more marketable unless you're a Zion Williams or a LeBron James or a Magic Johnson. You're never more marketable than you are when you're playing for that program. And that's the only time you can't profit off of playing for that program. I mean, the minute I got out of IU, I could go get speaking money. I could go around and I got paid $1,000 a talk for a lecture. Ray, I'm sure, got paid $2,000. Guys are making money. We could get free clothing from people. Adidas gave us a kind of a clothing contract with them for a year or two as we were going around speaking, but not when we were the most marketable playing there. We couldn't take a penny. And as I've always said, when I played there, I believe genuinely that the amount of revenue coming into the Indiana University, the amount they were paying for my education and healthcare and books and meals was equivalent to what probably should be paid to me or compensated for playing for the basketball team. And the money they
was getting screwed, though.
I don't know what Isaiah's deal was, and I'm not saying Isaiah cheated. I don't think he did. But you never know what those guys were doing. I wasn't privy to any conversation.
No, I'm just saying he didn't get paid, so he gets screwed over.
Yeah, he probably did, because I think that if Knight ever found out anything like that, there would have been hell to pay, even for an Isaiah. But to this day and age, when you're talking about $50 million coming in just off of TV rights to an athletic program, not to mention all the other hundreds of millions that are coming in from seat licensing. Almost every college now, every Power 5 conference has seat licensing, where you now have to contribute so much to the Alumni Association or to the athletic department in order to have the right to buy your season tickets. I mean, the NFL's adopted that a long time ago. Colleges got wind of it and said, hey, yeah, there's another, $10, $15 million of revenue a year. They get people to builds Cook Hall for the basketball program. Simon Scott dumps $30 million in to renovate, put their name on it. They sell the naming rights to all these facilities. It's just ridiculous.
All right, Steve, before we get done today, we forgot something.
What did we forget?
The NBA had a game last night.
Oh, yes, they did, and a good one.
Yeah, it was a good game.
It was a great game.
Yeah, I'll tell you the coolest thing was watching the Currys try to figure out who to cheer for.
Yeah, that was good. I mean, but they were having fun with it. They were both having fun with it. It was a good event, a great game. I'm going to tell you what, if I was looking at both these games, if I was Golden State, I'd be a little more nervous than normal going back to Portland, because I'll tell you what, Portland was not out of either one of these games. And I think the winning difference really, I don't think that the 22-point blowout in the first game was anything indicative of how that game was played. And I think the 114-111 win yesterday is probably a lot more indicative of how this series is going. I can see this series coming back to Golden State 2-2 very easily.
I think the difference was this. Of course, Steph Curry is always amazing at the end of the game. Get Kevon Looney with 14 points. Jordan Bell with 11 points. Then you got a guy like Jonas Jerebiko who had 7 rebounds. So when you look at that, and you got Iguodala, who did not play well, only had 4 points, but they let him get away with that foul steal at the end of the game, which saved the game. So I think the big story to last night's game isn't the main characters. It's what came off of the bench for him.
Right. And I perceive Golden State to be just a little stronger in that area. than Portland is, and that may be the difference in this series.
That's what surprises me. Though, I mean, come on. Have you ever heard of Kevon Looney?
Looney, is he affiliated with Looney Tunes?
See? But
you got
guys
label?
like Seth Curry, who played really well last night with 16 points.
Well, but is that the norm for Seth Curry?
Zach Collins. It's normal for Rodney Hood to be good off the bench.
Yeah.
It's not normal for Kevon Looney to be that good off the bench, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I think this all comes back to the conversation we had a couple weeks ago when I brought up Steph Curry. Is he the best player in the NBA? And everybody poo-pooed me, but he sure looks like it right now. I know that he is not the greatest defensive player in the world and all that, but I'll still come back to this. If you are playing them and you're up by less than 6 points with 2 minutes left, he's probably going to beat
trouble.
you.
Well, I mean, the question I'd have for you, Mike, is Steph Curry, is he the best player in the NBA or the best clutch player in the NBA?
Dude,
I mean, there's a difference.
How can you not be the best player if you're the best clutch player? Because in the end, the best clutch player is why you win championships. You know,
how about look at a kid in game one who puts up 0 points in the first half and 33 in the second? When the game gets clutch, he puts it up. What did he do the first half?
Doesn't matter because he won the game in the second half.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's fair.
And that was game 6 in Houston on the road where he comes up and throws in 33 points in the second half. I don't care. I mean, the thing is this. To me, clutch is the most important thing you can be because his kind of clutch is this, though. No matter what the score is, he can bring you back at any point. I mean, it wasn't like he was Vinnie Johnson from the old Pistons, and he just threw in 5 threes in the last 5 minutes to win you the game. In that game 6 against Houston, he controlled the entire second half. You know, so it's not like just the 5 or 6 minutes where he gets hot and takes the game over. He'll take the game over for half the game. And the thing is, in that second half, he was coming in with a series where he wasn't even playing that well. Now, the problem Blazers have is he's playing really well.
Yeah. Yeah, is it scary or not, Mike, that they're doing all this without Kevin Durant?
I said this before, and y'all kind of poo-pooed me again, but I told you I thought they were a better team without him.
Well, I'm not sure I disagree with you. I mean, I haven't formed a concrete opinion on it yet, but I don't know that I don't know that the Golden State is in too much of a hurry to upset the apple cart right now with what they're running with. I think they're going to need Durant in the finals if they get there against Milwaukee. If Milwaukee gets there, I think they would need him in that setting. But I think
in that matchup, they need him. But I don't know that he's going to be able to play successfully anyways the rest of this playoffs. I think, as I said before, I think the injury's worse than what they're letting on. He may be back by the finals. I don't know that he'll be back in this series. Maybe if it goes to a Game 6 or Game 7. The Game 3 tells the tale because the Trailblazers are really good at home. I could see the Blazers going back in the way they played last night, getting 2 wins, getting this series back to a best 2 out of 3. I don't think Portland's dead yet. And I think this, though. I think if Toronto loses and goes down 2-0, I think they're dead because I think Milwaukee is that good. And the thing that would worry me if I'm a Raptors fan is the fact that I think they played one of their best games and still lost by 8 points.
Yeah, and they're just too reliant on Leonard to carry them. I don't know that they have the total support around Leonard.
Well, he did have. I mean, he had some support the other night. It was just not as.
But is
much
it consistent?
As what the Bucks have got.
And is it consistent support? I mean, is it a?
Well, the scary thing.
I don't know.
The scary thing is this, though, Steve. He doesn't. What he got? He got support from Siakam and Lowry. So you had 3 guys play really well. So same thing I brought up before. For this team to be able to beat Milwaukee, they need all 3 of those guys to play like that every game if they can. And then they need a Marc Gasol or a Danny Green or a Serge Ibaka to just step up and join them to be able to match what Milwaukee can do. Because the Bucks, the best 2-way player in the NBA, is undoubtedly Giannis. I mean, you're looking at 24 points, 14 rebounds. You got Brook Lopez at center. And I think the problem here, and I think people miss this, I think the problem is the center matchup. I think Gasol is a good player, But a good game for him is 10 or 12 points. A good game from Brook Lopez is 20 to 30 points. And when you look at the backcourt, Middleton and Bledsoe only scored 20 points total, but they also dropped 16 assists combined. When you look at the backcourt for Toronto, 14 assists, 36 points. 30 of those points came from Lowry. Danny Green only scored 6 points. So I think the key is Gasol, Green, and Ibaka. At least one of those guys has to play well. But then Siakam, Leonard, I just think this. When you look at it, too many things had to fall exactly right for the Raptors to win a game even. And now they're in a situation where they've got to win 4 out of 6 games. And that's going to be really hard to do when you look at it like that. When I look at the Blazers series, I mean, the Blazers matchup is not as one-sided with the Warriors, I don't think, because you got 2 great backcourts. They got some decent players. I think the teams are fairly even. I think right now the difference is Klay Thompson and Steph Curry are clutch as hell. And last night, C.J. McCollum came up short when that came up.
Yeah, I would agree. A question for you: if Golden State wins one of the 2 in Portland, is that series over?
No, but it's probably over.
Yeah.
They've got to win both games at home. And this is the thing. They're going to play tomorrow night. So what you got again is you've got a team that's not real deep, that's played a lot of games in the playoffs and a lot of games over the last 4 or 5 years, and now they're only going to get 1 day rest. They're going to go back to Portland. This game is set up for Portland to win this game. So we'll see if Portland can get it done, because maybe they can't. And the thing is this. If they win that game, 1 day's rest again, then Warriors and Blazers on Monday. So that makes it difficult. And they win that game, 1 day's rest. Game 5 is on Wednesday. 1 day's rest. Game 6 is on Friday. 1 day's rest. Game 7 is on Sunday. I think this. If they win the next 2 games, I still think the Blazers are going to win the series.
Okay.
That's my story.
I don't agree with you. I think Golden State's going to get this thing. It may take 7 games.
Because this is the thing. Yeah. You've never been right, and I've never been wrong. So this could be that time for you, Steve.
Could be the one time, yeah.
It could be.
You know. Hey, I got UCF right. I didn't get Ohio State right, but I got UCF right.
Well, nobody cares. It's close enough that Ohio State today could have enrolled like 27 students, and now they're number 2. So don't worry about it. And like
the whole Bosa family probably unenrolled from college, so they're probably not there anymore.
Well, I mean, were they ever enrolled in college? I thought they just played at Ohio State.
Yeah,
it's Ohio State.
Nick Bosa was enrolled at Ohio State.
Jeez. All right,
I think
guys.
what's an amazing stat is Steph Curry, 74 straight free throws dating back to the 2016 playoffs. Is that amazing?
That's pretty good.
He has
and
not
they brought
missed
it up,
a free
and he
throw
didn't even
in
miss
the
it
playoffs.
immediately, because that's usually how
I know.
it goes.
You're thinking, there's the kiss of death.
Yeah,
He's
I did
too.
This one. I didn't really believe it, though, with him shooting it.
Didn't even hit rim, but 76 or 74 straight free throws. I'm sure somebody will correct me on that. Since the 2016 playoffs, he has not missed a free throw.
I thought it was 2015. Was it 15 or 16?
Was it? I don't know.
Either way, it's impressive as hell.
It's impressive as hell, the fact. But I think in the end, I don't know that Portland has anything to shut Steph Curry down.
You don't have
that
to
man
to shut him down. You
be
just
able to
outscore
shut him down. Well, but he scores timely baskets. Steph Curry scores timely baskets.
The key is when you get to the last 2 minutes of the game to be up by 9 or 10 points.
Yeah, be out of reach, uncatchable.
Yeah. But, all right, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show for today.
All right.
We'll be back on Monday.
Do you not want to talk about the Preakness?
Not really.
No? Neither of the horses that were involved in the scandal at the Derby are running.
That's why there's no reason to talk about it. I don't even know why. I don't even know why you have a Preakness if the Derby winner's not there.
I know 9 horses that did not run in the Derby are running in the Preakness. That's really about it. The odds-on favorite to win the Preakness right now sits with. Where did I write that down at? That was the Dabo Swinney stuff I took notes on.
Well, And I will bring up to people, I am interviewing Vince DeGregory again tonight, and we are going to discuss the Preakness, so we'll have a Preakness preview.
Well, I'll let you do that. I won't talk about that.
No,
I'll note, too, we talked about a little bit yesterday.
Truthfully, I've done no homework on the Preakness yet, so
I've done it all.
And I am going to bring up the fact that I think it's kind of a waste of time to race without the Kentucky Derby winner. Why would you not race in the Derby or race in the Preakness if you win the Derby?
Well, I think they scratched it because there was some breathing problems or injuries or something with the horse, or I don't know. Improbable is the favorite at 5-2 odds, but that horse is winless in its 3 starts this year.
Yeah, he was
he was
one of the favorites in the Derby too.
He was a 4th place horse. Yeah, he was the highest finishing horse in the Derby. Finished 4th. He was running at the end, so didn't crash and burn.
Yeah.
On other note, too, John Daly and his infinite golf cart and everything, his cigarette and his Diet Coke, I believe was 5 of them for the day, 10 of them for the tournament.
That's not bad for that course.
No, it's really not. Living proof, once again, though, that it's not the Arrows, it's the Indians. I don't care if you get a golf cart or not. You still have to be able to play golf to score and win on the PGA Tour. That's all I really had to cover of anything of any note.
All right.
I think we had kind of a hodgepodge day. We'll come back Monday with a review of the hockey and the NBA playoffs, how it consumed. And we'll go over NASCAR, too. It's the All-Star Weekend in NASCAR. Aren't you thrilled about that?
All right, guys, we're going to wrap the show up. Remember, you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Zeno Radio. Download the app on iTunes, and don't forget to listen to the NASCAR show with Steve Risley and Alex Gray. Also, tomorrow is Saturday, so if you want a little update on the PGA Tour Championships, which John Daly is failing miserably in, you can hear Brian Hammond's show around noon, 1 o'clock on The Grueling Truth. All right, so we're going to wrap it up. So for Steve, who was so full of shit today, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth.
Another day in paradise.